Hello, everybody. We're just going to get started. We're going to give a few minutes for people to join us before we start, just to let them figure out the technology. While we wait, hopefully everybody's aware of the chat function. So if you look at your controls, there will be a chat function that you can find where you can send messages. I'll be looking at those as we progress through the presentation, and perhaps bring in some comments or questions as we go along. And also there's a Q&A function, but perhaps if we can just use the only problem with the chat function is if there's a lot of discussion in the chat, then the questions might get lost. So it might be better to pop them into the Q&A. So that, yep, I think somebody's popped in a question already. Oh, attendee chat is disabled. Thank you. So that is a problem. I don't know whether I can enable it. I think I can't. All right. In that case, I think we're just going to have to use the Q&A function to make sure that your questions there. And if you do that, yeah, so there we are. So thanks for the comment. Unfortunately, I don't know how to enable the chat live. I think it's the way it was set up. But nonetheless, the Q&A works. So if we all use the Q&A for questions as we go along, then I should be able to see those and bring them into the discussion as we progress. So yeah, so we're just going to give perhaps 1 more minute for people to be able to join us before I start, because I can still see the number of participants going up. So just give it a little bit of a while to allow everybody to come in. Perhaps 1 more minute. So welcome everybody that is attending this morning. If you just joined us, I'm just giving a little bit of time for people to be able to sort of figure out the technology and join us before we start the seminar. I can still see the number of participants increasing, so just to keep it open before we start for perhaps a teeny bit longer. Perhaps 1 more minute, because I still see people joining us. So yeah, so good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Just giving a little bit of time for people to sort of join us. Okay, I think that's fine. I think we're ready to start. Might be some people joining us after we start, but that's okay. I think the majority are here. So let's get started with this topic. So today we're talking about supporting your financial and mental well-being. The emphasis for this discussion is quite focused on the financial well-being, and through that improving your mental well-being. I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Dr. Andres Fonseca. I'm a consultant psychiatrist. I'm one of the founders of Thrive. Thrive is a company that offers mental health services to other companies for their employees, and we offer through an app a range of techniques that enable people to sort of improve their mental resilience and recover from common mental health conditions. And we also have a dedicated therapy service that when people require it, they can go on therapy online, which is accessible via chat or via video conference or via the phone as well, depending on the individual's preference. And with me today, I have Nick Lawman. Nick, do you want to sort of say who you are for the audience?
Yes, hi everybody, good morning. I'm Nick Lawman. I'm a senior financial advisor with OpenMoney, and I'll go on to explain a bit later what OpenMoney does.
Okay, and then we've got Greg Blease as well.
Hi everybody, I'm Greg Blease. I've worked at OpenMoney for about 18 months and I am a financial advisor.
All right, thank you. Welcome. And Hannah, want to say a few?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hannah. I've been at OpenMoney for 5 years. I'm the head of support and one of the financial advisors here. Later in the webinar, I'll be running through the OpenMoney app for you guys.
Brilliant. Okay, Nick, I think if you can take us.
I would be delighted. Will you show I can't see the slides at the moment.
Yeah, so we are on, why are we talking about the cost of living crisis? That's what we are at the moment.
Yeah. But I can't see them, so.
Oh, okay. Is it not, they're not showing?
No, I can't.
In that case, let me try this. Is it showing now?
Nope.
Oh, people in the audience can see them, Nick. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Greg, can you see them? And Hannah, can you see them?
I can see them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously looking at something completely different. Okay. All right. Then, well, without seeing them, I will fire away. Okay. Thank you so much, Andreas. Who are we? OpenMoney is a fintech business based in Manchester, and through the use of technology, potential and existing clients can speak to an authorized regulated financial advisor about their plans and, where appropriate for the individual, start their investment and then continue to have ongoing advice when it's needed. The advice we provide covers investment, pensions, mortgages, and protection using life assurance, critical illness, and income protection. We do not charge for the advice provided, nor for arranging transfers of products and plans. And the fees that are charged are in relation to the funds and are some of the most competitive in the whole of the market. So why are we talking about the cost of living? We, who are regulated advisors, who would normally be discussing fund performances, diversification, correlation, efficient frontiers, capital asset pricing models, but instead we are talking about the fundamentals of the cost of living crisis. And that's because, I suppose, OpenMoney's mission is to provide very affordable advice to those 20+ million people in the country who we know want to invest, understand pensions, set up protection, and take mortgage advice, but are put off at times by the very high cost of advice and fees. We invariably do not speak to high net worth clients, but mostly to those who have modest means and want to start some form of financial planning. It is those conversations with investors that we as advisors are now talking about in regards to the crisis and they want to understand what they can do and what the options they have available to them without having to take actions such as withdrawing lump sum investments and stopping to contribute to pensions. Next, please, Andreas. I don't know which one that is showing.
It's showing energy crisis is a Dunkirk moment.
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot. Those two quotes are, I think, sum up what we've got today. Energy crisis is the Dunkirk moment. That was said by both Frank Field and Ros Altman, both members of the House of Lords, both with huge experience through their trade union experience, and also running for Ros Altman was the CEO of Saga a few years ago. The next quote is from Paul Lewis, who runs Radio 4's Money Box, and he feels that we are in the times of Dickens and Dickens' hard times, quoting his novel. Next, please. So our aim today is to give you plan and a structure and some ideas, concepts, and suggestions. What we won't do is to add commentary to what is going on, as you can get all of that from the media. Next, please. So money management. What is money management? We put a definition there, and I'm just going to get it up because I still can't see. It's a budget, taking control of your finances, using what you have wisely and effectively, and having a positive sense of financial well-being. But this term well-being at the moment generates different questions. You know, are you feeling ashamed because you have a problem in the forms of not having control of your finances? Are you feeling secure? Are you feeling confident? Are you feeling or not being frightened? Are you concerned and worried about your children and family? And are you being able to sleep at night? And most importantly of all is, do you have a fear of calls or letters? Okay, so next slide, please. What we want to do is look at a plan. You've got to start with having a fundamental plan which you believe in. So what I'm doing is looking at the one style of planning called what is called smart planning. Next, please. So we start off with specific, a plan which can be tailored to suit an individual and their circumstances, which in turn means that they will believe that it is workable. So specific, think about what you want to accomplish. Think about it as your mission statement. This is not a detailed list of how you're going to meet your goals. Instead, what you're trying to do is answer the W questions. Who needs to be involved with achieving the goal, friend or partner? What is it you're trying to achieve? The more, the better. When are you going to achieve it? And although that comes under time bound, you do have to start to set a time frame in your thoughts. And which related obstacles or requirements are going to stop or motivate you to start the plan, and how to get that goal more realistic. Next, please. Measurable. How are you going to measure the progress? Is it going to be just the total achievement, or is it going to be the progress made? Are you going to use milestones or reminders, sticky notes on fridges? Or is it going to be the way you feel or think? Next, please. Achievable. This is about how important a goal is to you. Will you need to develop new skills and perhaps more importantly, a different attitude? Goals are there to inspire and motivate and not discourage. You need sufficient belief in the goal to make the changes. Next, please. Realistic or relevant. Does it make sense? Will it make a difference to what you want to achieve? In other words, are you trying to eat the elephant in one go or eat it bit by bit? Can you see it, taste it, or even feel it? Next, please. Time bound. Anyone can set goals, but if it lacks realistic timing, there is a good chance you're not going to succeed. If it's going to take 3 months instead of 3 weeks, that is not a problem. Fix milestones that you know that you're making progress in the right direction. And most importantly, try and write it down. Thank you very much. Andres.
Yeah, no worries. I was very interested in some of the things that you said in this particular slide where you were talking about financial well-being. I was a bit late on it, apologies to the audience, but I think these are very, so to the topic of mental health and how it relates to this problem. I think this particular slide is very important. So these are some of the common things that may cross through your mind when you're facing increasing costs and an uncertain future, and you don't know whether you're going to have enough. And is that feeling of security, that being ashamed, and that fear of letters that you were talking about, that perhaps may creep into people's minds. And is, I suppose, what I'm trying to sort of give an idea to people of is whether these, obviously, there's going to be a challenge, there's going to be a threat, something that is threatening, and is whether that the stress that it generates, is it at the right side of the right function of stress. So stress is a powerful motivator that pushes us into action and can help us deliver better performance than otherwise we would. So there is a positive side to stress. It's not all negative. However, if that side of stress, if that positive side of stress, that motivating side that pushes us to try and achieve more and be more energetic and push ourselves harder, if that is exceeded, we go into the territory where it can start creating serious problems. So the questions to ask oneself as to whether the situation is causing more serious problems is, am I experiencing any chronic, any significant symptoms? And those symptoms might be things like could be quite significant anxiety to the point of having panic attacks. That can be felt as some physical symptoms that you might experience, such as palpitations, feeling like having sweaty palms, feeling restlessness in general, but in particular, sometimes you even get aches and pains, headaches may be common. It might affect your sleep, and that can be quite disruptive in itself. And it could sort of generate discomfort in general, but in particular, for example, give you some abdominal symptoms like abdominal cramps and things like that you may be noticing. So is whether those symptoms are increasing, are affecting your day-to-day life. So are they becoming, the symptoms, are they becoming distressing? And one of the ways in which you can judge that is whether they are having an impact in your normal level of functioning. So there's a million things that you need to do to prepare for this crisis. Is it becoming overwhelming? Are you not being able to sort of cope with it? Are you not being able to function? So if they're creating barriers for you to sort of achieve your goals rather than promoting the achievement of your goals, it's clearly becoming a problem and something that needs to be sort of taken into account in its own right. So of course you still want to be doing the right thing for yourself and for your family and following the advice that Nick and Greg and Hannah are going to give us, but you need to be in the right space of mind to be able to do this. So are you able to sort of recognize that these symptoms are showing up, that they're generating significant distress, and that they are impeding your function, that they are, instead of stress being something that motivates you and gives you more energy, is something that is doing quite the opposite, is inhibiting your ability to deal with the problem and is becoming insurmountable for you. So if that happens, it's very important to sort of make the resolution to seek help, and that could be help from somebody like OpenMoney. So it would be about looking at your finances. Practical help will be very welcome here, but also it might be help independently about addressing your mental health. About making sure that your mental health is not affected to the point that you cannot solve these problems, right? So it might be about, the first port of call might be your GP, or it might be there's local mental health services that can be accessed directly, that you can refer yourself, even local counseling services that one can refer themselves to. If you have access to our app, of course, we will have our own therapists that will be available to sort of support you through a time like this. You have to be committed to seek help. Sometimes you feel like you don't want to, or that shame that you were talking about, that's creeping in, and you should be able to sort of deal with this yourself without sort of necessarily getting any support. That is, it's a tempting thought, but it's something that we ought not to do. It's important to sort of be committed to seek that help and not be put off if it's difficult to get it at the beginning, or if the first time we try, it doesn't work out quite the way we want. And that's where that local support may help motivate you, somebody that guides you through it or supports you through it, or goes with you to appointments, for example, might help you sort of overcome that hurdle. And once you get this advice, it's important to be committed to follow through with it. If, for example, if you get you get recommended some therapy, make time for the therapy. I know that there's a million things on your mind. There's a million practical things that you need to do, but make time for the therapy. That's very important, because otherwise you're not going to be empowered to be able to sort of resolve the other problems. Or if you get a plan to improve your sleep, it's important that you follow through with it. Again, without good sleep, you're not going to be able to concentrate. You're not going to be able to follow through with the actions that you do need to take to make sure that you are, taking care of yourself during this difficult time. So I know that it might not seem like a priority, or it might sometimes even feel a bit indulgent when you're already feeling guilty if you're taking time out for yourself. But without taking that time off for yourself, you're not going to be as effective as you otherwise could be, and you're not going to be as capable of solving the problem as you could be. So in order to solve the crisis, it's important to take that time for yourself to just be better and more effective. So I think that's a message that I wanted the audience to walk away with. Just focus on that. I know it's difficult, but if it is creeping in, it's important to pay attention to it. Okay, Greg, I think we've got some of that practical advice that if we follow through on this advice, we should be able to utilize. We will be in the best place possible to make the best use of it.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you at such an important time. I'm going to be talking to you about what's available in the market and how to use it. And just to give you an idea of where I'm going with it today, I'm going to start with some financial tips, then we'll move on to some lifestyle tips, and I'll finish with some education and help that's available to you. So if we can go to the next slide, please. And next slide again. Thank you. So I wanted to start with some financial foundations that we encourage all of our clients to have in place, whether they're already invested, looking to invest, or not quite ready to invest. We encourage everybody has these foundations in place because it's an important part of financial security. So the first is credit control. And by and large, that means little to no short-term debt. And by short-term debt, we mean credit cards, payday loans, things like that. But the reason I say credit control is because I know a lot of people use their credit cards for their day-to-day spending and then pay it off at the end of every month. And that's fine because that increases your credit score. But the key word's control, really. So in an ideal world, we'd have anything with double-digit interest rates off our books. And obviously, the less debt we have, the less we spend servicing that debt. So it helps us with our monthly budgets going forward. The second foundation is an adequate emergency fund. And the general rule of thumb with an emergency fund is to have 3 to 6 months worth of essential expenditure saved in cash. So in an instant access current account or savings account, basically. What you deem to be adequate is a sort of personal question. Some people, if they feel particularly vulnerable in their career, for example, they might have a year's worth of savings as an emergency fund. For most people, 3 to 6 months is about right. And equally, what you choose to spend your emergency fund on is also a personal question. So for some people, it's if their dishwasher breaks down, they'll use their emergency fund. For other people, it's saved purely for if they lose their job. So how can we achieve these financial foundations? I know Nick's spoken a lot about having a plan in place, and one really easy and simple plan that we can all sort of implement immediately is called 50-20-30. Obviously, it's not tailored to you individually, so it might require some tweaking, but the basic principles are that you spend 50% of your monthly take-home pay on essentials, so your mortgage or your rent, transport, food, things like that. 20% goes on either savings or debt. So savings could be investing, or it could be building up that emergency fund that I was talking about. Or if you've got high debts, then it'd be servicing that debt. And then 30% would go on your wants. So going to a restaurant at the weekend, going to the cinema, whatever it might be. I won't judge you. Next slide, please. So the first, perhaps more practical tip that I want to get across is to speak to your providers. I'm sure many of you have got sort of various insurances in place, maybe sort of a term assurance that you took out alongside your mortgage, or maybe some income protection, things like that. And it might be very tempting at the moment to sort of look to cancel those policies, but it's really important right now that we sort of remember the reasons we took out those policies in the first place. Protection. So these insurance policies are a bedrock of financial planning, and they obviously give us a safety net in the face of emergency. So think bigger picture, really. And the point that I want to make is that most providers are actually very, very willing to help in circumstances like these. In fact, most policies have got specific features designed to help clients in financial distress. So it's worth picking up the phone. But a couple of things here that you might want to ask about. The first being a career break. Now, it's not as nice as it sounds. You don't have to be on a career break to request it, but all that is a temporary pause in your premiums and your cover, but it leaves the policy in place, importantly. The second is a premium holiday. These were actually brought in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, but a lot of providers have left them in place. And they mean different things to different providers, but some mutuals, for example, are using their member fund to pay for the premiums for their clients. Whereas for others, it's a premium deferral, so you might have to pay the premiums back at a later date, but it's worth just picking up the phone and asking the question, But it's not just insurances, there's help with energy bills as well. So Ofgem now have rules in place that mean that suppliers have to offer you a payment plan that you can afford. Equally, you can request emergency credit if you're on a prepaid meter and you can't afford to top up. The key thing is to ask the question, but Ofgem's encouraging all consumers to speak to their providers and ask for payment reductions or payment breaks, or maybe even just more time to pay. So again, speak to your provider. Next slide, please. So the next point I want to make is about avoiding knee-jerk reactions, and it sort of follows on from the last slide quite nicely, really. There's been loads of horror stories recently of people over the age of 55 dipping into their pension pots. It's not been helped by the fact that companies are now targeting the over 55s, trying to seduce you into dipping into your pension. Generally speaking, it's a very bad idea. Firstly, and perhaps most obviously, it will affect your standard of living when you come to retire. We're all living longer and longer now, and we need to be planning for a 30+ year retirement now. The state pension will cover the absolute bare minimum, and I really do mean the bare minimum. So it's important that we have some kind of pension fund on the side on top of that to maintain our standard of living. But another point that people maybe don't realize is that dipping into your pension can trigger something called the money purchase annual allowance, and it's sort of industry jargon, but essentially it means that you're capped at what you can put into your pension each year at £4,000 per year. So generally speaking, the last 10 years of somebody's employment are when they accumulate most funds into their pension. So to be capped in possibly the last 10 years of your employment could be absolutely crippling. So you've just got to be really careful. Equally, and maybe for the younger members of the audience today, I've spoken to a lot of clients recently who have opted out of their workplace pension. Again, 99 times out of 100, it's a very bad idea. Firstly, again, you'll affect your standard of living when you come to retire, but also you're giving up free money from your employer in the form of their contributions. So just try and avoid it. I think what I'm trying to get across is avoid knee-jerk reactions, think of the bigger picture, because there are much better ways to alleviate some of the pressures that we're feeling at the moment. So next section, please. So I'll move on to some lifestyle tips. I'm going to go next slide again, please. Thank you. And I wanted to start with comparison sites. And I'm sure you're all well acquainted with comparison sites. They should assist us in switching. And by switching, I mean sort of shopping around for the best deals on your phone, contracts, your internet providers, whatever it might be, your car insurance, things like that. One of the most effective ways we can use comparison sites is to simply arm yourself with a few quotes and go back to your current provider. And it doesn't need to be a hostile negotiation or anything like that. You can simply say something like, look, I've got these three quotes. I can't afford to be paying any more than I need to right now. Is there anything you can do to help? And you'll be surprised at how effective that can be. I do sort of need to caveat the comparison site stuff, though, by saying that you'll usually get quoted the very cheapest deal, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most suitable for you. You need to be checking the policies for inclusions, exclusions, and read reviews. Reviews are probably the best way to find out if something's any good. So check out the reviews on anything that you're about to take out. On top of switching, we can sort of look to start cancelling things if we're not using them, any unused subscriptions, things like that. If you've got internet provider that comes with a landline that you don't use, for example, consider switching that or getting rid of it. If you've got 4 Netflix accounts between the family, consider getting a family account instead. We all know interest rates are going up at the moment, so shop around for the best rates on bank accounts. I've recently taken out a bank account via a comparison site, actually, with the cooperative, and it was a packaged bank account that came with my phone insurance, worldwide travel insurance, and breakdown cover for £15 per month. So that saved me a lot of money. But again, it's just about being proactive and making this part of your daily routine, really. Or not daily routine, maybe weekly or monthly routine. Next slide, please. So the next section is discounts, and discounts are absolutely everywhere at the moment. Everywhere we look, we can find discounts. So again, now's the time to be proactive and start using them. So Money Saving Expert, for example, if you sign up to their newsletter, you'll get an absolute ton of discounts sent to you, as well as great money saving tips. Equally, if you regularly use a service of some description, consider signing up to the newsletter of that company, because there's a good chance they'll have sort of flash sales or discounts or rewards schemes, whatever it might be. An underutilized resource actually is employee benefits. So most benefits packages nowadays have unbelievable discounts, and you can get gym discounts, food vouchers, whatever it might be, all the way up to sort of health insurance or tech and cycle schemes. So again, it's worth asking the question and just finding out exactly what you've got available to you. I'm sure you've all seen Tesco's Club Card, for example. The in-store discounts at the moment are amazing, but all supermarkets now have some kind of rewards card, so you can pick up points, and they do add up. So just think about starting to use these kind of things. Yellow labels in supermarkets, now's the time to start sort of making the most of them. All supermarkets have a reduced section. I think there's a bit of a stigma about maybe using these kind of things, but just get stuck in. If you need to get your elbows out and to get what you want, then do it. I will see you there. And finally, I've been reliably informed that charity shops are now a trendy place to shop, and obviously the prices in there are really low. So start making the most of them if you don't already. Next slide, please.
We have a couple of comments just before we move on about cashback. Asda is very good. Shout out Lidl. But we have a question as well, which is the thing, and charity shopping, which, as you say, I am also reliably told that is becoming quite trendy, and also it goes in favor of sustainability, isn't it? It's about reusing rather than throwing away, which is that's good for your pocket, but also good for the planet. So just think about it that way, and also good for the charity itself that you're helping. So it's like good all around. But the question that I had was that some people thought that having a landline was mandatory to get internet access, and because you said cancel your landline, people are asking, is that possible? I think it is, but I canceled my landline based on that, and he was fine. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you can get internet now without a landline. I know I've got sort of Virgin at home, I think, and that comes without a landline. So it's worth just doing your research on these kind of things. If you're paying for a landline that you don't use, then obviously you'll be paying over the odds. So just do your research, and you'll be able to find cheaper deals off the back of that research. Lovely. So I just wanted to mention a little bit about resources and podcasts in this case. I think there's sort of, a lot of people lack the confidence to make sound financial decisions in this country, and it sort of stems from never being taught this stuff in school, but just generally there being a lack of engagement with our own finances. Now, obviously, podcasts are sort of designed to be fun and engaging. They're targeted at the everyday listener like us. So they're a good way to just keep you ticking over and keep you thinking about your own finances. What I'm trying to get across really is that our financial well-being should be part of our sort of everyday routines as our physical and mental well-being might be. They're all obviously so interlinked, but podcasts are a great way to sort of just keep that level of engagement. So I've put some examples here, but Money Moves by Tony Tone. We've got the Real Life Money Journal, Times Money Mentors, brilliant. I just think if you can listen to one or two of these a week, not only will you obviously get great sort of money saving tips, but just keep you engaged and conscious of your own finances. And I think that's really important. So next slide, please. And again, so the final section is education and help. And the overarching theme here is going to be to speak to a professional if you need to. The cost of living crisis is going to impact absolutely everybody, regardless of your financial circumstances. There's no doubt about that. So there's absolutely no shame in asking for help. And I think those who ask for help will be better placed than those who do not. So I've put some examples here of places you can start, but Money Helper, for example, that's a UK government approved guidance website for all things money, but there's loads of great articles on there. I saw one which was sort of how to approach your creditor if you're struggling with repayments, things like that. But they've also taken over PensionWise and the Pension Advisory Service. So anything to do with workplace pensions or private pensions, then that's the place to go. Step Change I've included there. Step Change is a superb service, and it provides ongoing debt support. So they can help you sort of develop and maintain a repayment plan, but you'll be able to speak to a professional throughout that process. Experience, another good one. If you're not sort of well acquainted with your credit score already, then I'd strongly recommend you sign up to a service like Experian. Our credit score now is an important part of our financial mechanics, and it acts as a financial footprint. So your credit score will be checked basically on any credit application, any mortgage application, and increasingly any job application or many job applications. So if you don't know your score, sign up to one of those sites and they can help you to start improving that credit score. Again, I sort of touched on this next point earlier in an earlier slide, but ask your employer what help they've got available. More and more employers are willing to help in terms of providing financial coaching or even financial advice. But lots of them also provide support in terms of mental well-being and physical well-being. So just ask the question, find out what they can do for you, because I'm pretty sure they will be able to help. And last, but certainly not least, us here at OpenMoney, if you go to our website, you'll be able to receive financial advice upfront for free. And you'll also be able to book an appointment with one of the advisors. So Hannah, Nick, and myself, you'll be able to speak to us. So regardless of what your circumstances are, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to help you. So just to conclude, make the most of what's available to you. Be proactive and take control of the situation rather than letting it take control of you. So I'll pass you over to Hannah now, I think, who's going to take you through our app.
Yeah, but we have one question that I think is relevant. I mean, there's two questions. One is, would the slides be available to participants? And I believe they will be. I think we will send them through. So some of those resources that Greg has been mentioning, you can have the slides, you can check them out, and you can find them and use them, which is, you know, very good resources to be using and to be aware of. But the question was, why would an employer check your score, your credit score? Which is a good question. You know, why would they do that, and under what circumstances, Greg?
Yes, I mean, it depends on the type of employment, really. So us at OpenMoney, for example, we were all subject to a credit check because we work in finance. Now, you're not going to get checked with every type of employment, but I think on top, or increasingly on top of it being sort of a financial footprint, I think it's a little bit more than that these days. Employees want to know as much about you as possible. And this is just another way of sifting through, you know, the many applications that they get. Again, it'll depend on what type of employment you're in, but it's becoming an increasingly more prominent part of the background checks that employers are doing on their employees.
Yeah, it's part of our due diligence, and depending on the type of job, if you have contact with money, or you're administering money in any way, it might be perceived as important to sort of know whether, you know, there might be some risks associated with somebody who's in dire financial situations if they are near large amounts of money or managing a lot of money. Is that right, Greg? Is that
yeah, absolutely,
type of situation where so it's part of due diligence for those type of roles. If there's a perceived conflict of interest between having a very poor credit score and being in contact with or being controlling money on behalf of a company.
It's part of the regulator. Our regulator within the industry, the Financial Conduct Authority, requires this.
So in regulated, but also in unregulated or not regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, it also is important. Depending if you're going to work in the finance and you have the authority to commit the company to make some expenditures, then it might be part of your background check, along with a DBS, for example. All right. Sorry, Hannah. I think you were going to take us through the OpenMoney app. Yeah,
fabulous. I just wanted to just raise the chat that Harkamel mentioned about renewing your insurance policies, because that's definitely an important point as well. I'm actually renewing my car insurance next month, and I think Money Saving Expert actually calculated that the best time to do it is between 20 to 25 days before your policy expires. Okay. So it's not always the earlier the better, but I kept reminding my housemate, for example, to renew us within that time. She saved it to last minute and ended up paying the earth and the moon. So make sure you do keep on top of renewing your policies. So thanks, Greg and Andres. So early in the webinar, Nick mentioned the fundamentals of creating a smart plan to assist you in achieving your financial goals. So we have some tools available on our app, which works with open banking. So those of you who aren't aware what open banking is, it's a system that provides third-party access to financial data. So for example, you can link a current account and it can pull through some transactional data. And this is all through the use of APIs. So it allows third parties like ourselves to safely and securely access this data and help consolidate and bring it all into one place, loans, credit cards, current accounts, and so on, just so it enables you to have that visibility to keep on track of your finances. Throughout my time with OpenMoney, I have been customer facing, so I have often heard the concerns and how cautious customers are with sharing this information, and it's very understandable, but there is a common misconception that linking the account could mean that it can make some unauthorized payments, but our app doesn't have any ability to make payments. It has read-only access and only pulls through data that you've permitted to share. It also has bank level encryption, so any of that data that's been pulled through is safely secured. Also, the connection isn't constant. It does expire or terminate after 90 days if you've not re-established that link. Also, at any point from the app, you can just disconnect from a provider. So the intention of open banking when it was first initiated back in 2017 was actually to promote competition in retail banking, and also to help evolve the UK fintech industry and create better consumer outcomes. So it's been a great success so far that actually other EU countries are introducing similar rules. So it's certainly something that we should embrace, and hopefully that will encourage further developments in this field. So I'm just going to run through a quick demo. Andres, could you click on the next slide, please? Right, so when you first sign up, you'll be prompted to create a profile. It's just so we can enable the tools for you to save or to achieve your goal. So in this demo, I'm just going to select that I'm looking to save towards something. And there's other goals as well that you can select here, predetermined ones. But the second section, it does ask you to be a bit more accurate with specifying what your goal is. So in this scenario, I'm just going to enter, I'm looking to save around £7,000 towards a wedding. Now later, I'll show you exactly how you can monitor that and whether you're on track with that goal. Another section is the budgeting. So I encourage you to set up a budget. So the system's quite smart here. It pulls in all your linked transactions and it actually tells you how much you spend on average in certain categories. However, you can edit this to something perhaps a bit more realistic. It's also smart enough to pull in your income, recognize your income, and also any recurring payments, but you could edit that here as well if that's not accurate. And once you've set the budget, you can return to the home screen and just review how you're doing for the month so far, how much you've spent, how much you've got remaining, just to check whether you're on track within your budget. Another helpful tool is the ability to recognize the subscriptions or recurring payments, what you've paid so far and what you have remaining. So this is just helpful just to make sure you've got money available to make those payments. So my account overview is looking a bit dire at the moment, and this is because it's taken into account everything. I've actually linked my student loans. So I'm just demoing how easy it is here to disconnect a provider. And then hopefully my overview is just looking a lot more healthier now. So let's go back to the wedding goal. Here you can actually specify exactly which account you want used towards that saving goal. So you can exclude other savings, perhaps if you've got an emergency pot on another goal. So all the money that goes into that account will accumulate to help you reach that target amount. So it just helped with that visibility there. Another section here is an education piece, as Greg mentioned. So we create a lot of articles, mostly financial topics. So it will just link you to our OpenMoney website and you can just read a bit more about that. We also talk about current affairs, such as an increase in inflation rates and so on. So it's all topical as well. We've also got this investment tab. So I've got to mention this is a test account. So these returns aren't accurate to what our portfolio, how our portfolios perform. But for our investment customers, we don't recommend investing to everyone. As Greg mentioned, we've got to make sure you're in a good financial position. But here, customers could just review their products with us. And finally, this analysis tab is just to review your expenditure across different months. You can also select different categories to see whether you've been perhaps quite frivolous in a specific category. If there is a merchant that's not been labeled the correct category, you can easily edit it here. And you don't have to go through all those transactions. It will update all the transactions in your entire data. So yeah. So that's just a quick run through of some of the features and tools available in our app. It's free from the App Store and Play Store, so on mobile devices. So there's plenty of apps out there that do consolidate their accounts similar to this, but what makes our app unique is that we do have the widest list of connections available. So we just encourage you to get everything in one place. But we do encourage you to utilize open banking because there are some providers that only provide the minimal data possible. But if they see a demand there, hopefully they can prioritize it and look to improve their own open banking tools. So I hope you enjoyed the demo. I'm just going to pass over Nick, who has a few closing words, unless there's some questions.
Yeah, so before we go on to Nick, so somebody's asking, you showed a demo there where somebody has a reliable monthly kind of salary. They're asking if their salary is variable, the part employed and part self-employed. How does the app respond to that, or what can you do to sort of take that into account?
Is this if you've got other several forms of income?
It appears so. So yeah. The question, I don't think we can answer specific questions about specific situations, but I suppose the question is, if you have variable income because you have many sources of income that are not always the same month on month, how do you take that into account, I suppose? Yeah.
I believe the app currently at the moment only looks at a big chunk of payment that's coming in each month and something that's quite similar as each month goes by. But that's definitely a piece of information we could pass on, see if it's possible to label other sources of income rather than just a lump sum that's received on a monthly basis.
Okay.
I think though, if the payment's from the same source, then the app automatically recognizes it as your income. So if you've got self-employed income, for example, and it changes month on month, I think it'll pick up that income source, and it won't make a difference whether it's higher or lower each month.
Yeah, it will pick up on the merchant name and identify that as the source of income.
We have a very specific question. I don't think we can answer here because it's more about having invested in a particular way. I think the answer there is to come to OpenMoney and ask the question to one of the advisors if it's very specific. I think it makes sense, right? Yeah. But there's another question just about the app in general, which is it available on a browser, as a website, or is it only via an app?
It's currently only available via app, but we have had requests to have it available on a desktop version. So we're currently working on that.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. Is that enough? Well, what we've tried to deliver is based on both our personal experience and what we've learned within the role. We've tried to be practical and no nonsense approach. I mean, if you want to take control of your finances, you can, but you're going to pay a price, and that price is focus, belief, and determination. There is no other choice in that respect. Next, please. Review, next one, and next one. Review your plan, okay? You've got to make it a living document. You've got to change it, update it, and wherever possible, share it with somebody, your friend or partner. This is not theoretical stuff. This is based, certainly I've used smart planning, or I've used planning to achieve financial goals and objectives. Otherwise, I wouldn't be stating it. I do believe in it. Next slide, please. Whatever your financial goals are, it's important to keep control, because when you do it, you can earn it, keep it, and grow it. And that is so important. You work so hard we all work so hard for income. And if we can plan around it, budget, view everything that we're spending, prioritizing, all these sort of things, but keep on doing it. I know we're in a crisis at the moment, but even if we were not in a crisis, it's really important to do it. Okay, but thank you so much, Andres, for giving us the opportunity from OpenMoney to talk on the webinar. And if you need any more information, my email address is there, and I'd be delighted to have contact. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, all three of you, for very practical and focused advice. I think that's very important at this time. I was talking earlier about the impact that this can have. It can feel so overwhelming that it becomes in itself a problem, and then if it spills into, if it sort of, it's the cause of something like the start of depression or anxiety, to the point that, you know, it stops our functioning, then we can be even more crippled in the situation. However, feeling more in control, so feeling that you can do things, feeling that there's practical steps that you can take, can go quite a long way to sort of alleviate some of those concerns. There might be more that you need to do, but at the stages where you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't know what to do, you feel a bit powerless, being empowered with this knowledge is going to be like the first key piece that it might protect you from becoming so stressed that you develop one of these conditions that I'm talking about. If you do develop it, it's okay. They're perfectly treatable and you could recover from them. And just remember that, yes, you do need to prioritize your financial well-being. That may have been the primary cause of why you're feeling quite stressed at the moment, but nonetheless, don't neglect your mental health as well, because otherwise you're not going to be able to sort of effectively do these things that we've learned how to do today. So I think it's important to pay attention to both. And I'm just going to open for a few final set of questions if anybody has them at this time, for any of the panelists or even myself. If there's anything there that we can help with. I think that somebody was asking how to access the information about the OpenMoney app. We've got Nick's email there, as he said, but also, you know, you've got the website there to sort of reach out. And you said that it was some resources are free. Nick, is that right?
The advice, yes. I mean, talking to one of us, or as financial advisors, we do not charge for advice, and we do not limit the number of times people can, you know, talk to us, especially if they, you know, used us for to start their investments or, you know, their pension, and all of that is absolutely totally free. The only charge or fee that there is related to the administration of the investments. And as I said, they are incredibly competitive, I mean, ridiculously so. So we are very popular, if I can put it that way. And Great. All my colleagues, we love talking to people, you know, and be delighted to help.
Somebody asks, it might be too specific a question, I'll let you be the judge of that. Is it possible to track their savings on their NSI premium bonds through the app? Is that a connection that is available?
I don't think.
No, that's too advanced, isn't it?
Yeah. I was just checking whether it's one of the providers. I don't believe it is.
Okay.
And that's probably because they've just not
they don't have an API
tools yet
to
do the open banking. Yeah. So when it was first launched, actually, the competition regulator actually set deadlines for some of the major banks to release certain tools by a certain time. But National Savings and Investments must not have been one of them. But hopefully, as the market progresses, they will.
So it all depends on whether the savings provider has the connection available for you to link to it, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I suppose I'll ask a question myself. Is it possible to input some of these things manually if there's no direct link to a specific provider? If you have the information and you want to just collate it along with the rest of it, can you do that?
That is one of the features that we're looking to introduce as well.
Okay.
We've been asked for that one as well several times. Yeah.
So it's coming up very soon.
It's coming soon.
I actually spoke to the tech teams about this, and I think they call them ghost accounts, and it's something that I think they're looking into. There's a few sort of issues with linking them and how they look on the app, but I think it won't be too long before that's available.
Excellent. Well, if we have no more questions, just want to thank my panelists again. Thank you very much. I think it's been great. I think we had lots of attendees, lots of interaction during the webinar. And yeah, I think we'll give people some time back in their diaries, which I'm sure they will appreciate it. Thank you all very much. And, great advice. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us, Andres.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Pleasure.
See ya.
Take care.